Euphonia and the Flood by Mary Calhoun with pictures by Sims Tabak. One time there was an old woman named Euphonia who had a broom, a pig, and a boat. The broom's name was Briskly, the pig's name was Fatly, and the boat's name was Mary Ann. Euphonia always said, if a thing is worth doing, it's worth doing well. So the broom swept briskly, the pig lived fatly, and the boat floated very nicely, thank you. As for Euphonia, she did well by every living soul who came up by her doorpath. But one time a flood came up her doorpath, all kinds of water sashaying out of the creek banks. Water it whipped and washled around until it came right through Euphonia's front door. For a flood, she said, the creek's doing right well, but we just can't sit here hollering for help. We'll go and see where all this flood water's rushing to. So the old woman packed briskly and fatly into Mary Ann, untied the boat, and pushed off down the creek. Row, Fatly, said Euphonia. The pig took the oars and he rowed fatly. Euphonia took the broom and she swept the flood waters briskly, keeping the tree boughs and trash from bumping into the boat. Mary Ann, she floated very nicely, thank you. And they all streamed down the creek, neat as needles, without snagging up on anything. Euphonia smiled and said, if a thing is worth doing, it's worth doing well. But before long, she saw a skunk on a tiny island just sit there sopping wet. Safe as last, cried the skunk. Safe nothing, said Euphonia. Creek's on the rise, and what are you going to eat sitting there on that mud hump, maybe for days? Better pile in with us. The old woman caught onto the mud hump with briskly and held the boat there. I'm better off than I was, insisted the skunk, patting the mud with his paws and staying put. Silly skunk, exclaimed Euphonia. You'll either starve or drown. Lean over, Fatly. The pig leaned over fatly, and Euphonia swept the skunk briskly across the pig's back onto the boat. Mary Ann, she floated very nicely, thank you. There, said Euphonia, if a thing is worth doing, it's worth doing well. The skunk shook himself good, so they all got wet, and a boatload of them popped on down the creek flood. Well, pretty soon the old woman saw 3 chickens squatting on a piece of henhouse roof. Roof was floating in the backwater of the flood. You can't go nor come puddling around back there, called Euphonia. But the chickens clucked, we're better off than we were. Shiftless chickens, exclaimed Euphonia. If you're going to be in a flood, you might as well see the flood, where it's going. Why, you could even row that henhouse roof with your wings. Pull over there, Fatly. So the pig pulled over there fatly, and with the broom, the old woman hitched Mary Ann's rope briskly to the henhouse roof. Then they all scooted on down the creek, boatload of them with 3 chickens in tow. The chickens, they fluttered and squawked about their fast ride in the flood, but Euphonia only smiled. There, if a thing is worth doing, it's worth doing well. By and by there came a bear. Old Bear, he was a-thrashing around in a flood, clinging to a tree branch and shouting, help, help. But when he saw all that shebang swarming down the creek at him, boat, pig, skunk, old woman and broom, plus a hen house roof full of chickens, the bear cried, keep away. Euphonia called back, we're your help, climb right on in with us. But the bear paddled up a great splash, crying, I'm better off alone. Tree branch, it'll save me. Blithery bear, exclaimed Euphonia. A boat is better than a branch. Catch up, Fatly. So the pig cut off fatly, and the old woman broomed the bear and his tree branch briskly into the boat. Old Bear, he settled his bottom in one end, and he liked that solid spot there. Mary Ann sank a little lower in the water where the bear sat, but still she floated very nicely, thank you. There, Euphonia smiled and said, if a thing is worth doing, it's worth doing well. And they all sashayed on down the creek, bear and broom, old woman and pig, skunk and bear holding onto his branch with the chickens in their henhouse roof squawking along behind. Right about that time, the whole scramble of them came around a bend and found out exactly where the floodwater was going, to Farmer Stump's mill pond, the pond that was spread out to a fare-thee well all over the hollow. Bobbing on the water was every kind of animal riding out the flood, squirrels on branches, rabbits on logs, hop toads on big leaves, and up ahead, the flood tripped over into a waterfall. Far enough, Euphonia called out. Fatly pull for shore. So the pig pulled Fatly for shore. There on the high ground, Farmer Stump had set up food tables for all the folks who had come floating down in the flood. When the pig spied that, Euphonia said, "Now you see where the floodwater was a-going? To a picnic, that's where. And we'd have missed it, sure, if we'd have stayed back home hollering for help." Very nicely done, Mary Ann. Thank you. So they all climbed ashore and stomped their feet on the good high ground. The bear ate honey and biscuits, the skunk ate apple pie, the chickens ate cornbread, and the pig ate fatly of all that, plus turnips, too. As for Euphonia, she did well by every living soul that bobbed by her on the millpound. She broomed them out briskly because she said, "If a thing is worth doing, it's worth doing well." The end.